All right, let's talk about something really important. We all spend our lives working hard, right? Building something we're proud of. But have you ever stopped to think, what happens to all that stuff when we're, well, not around anymore? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty powerful strategy, one that the wealthiest families use to make sure their success doesn't just fizzle out. We're talking about turning it into a real legacy. We're going to lay out the exact blueprint for a financial structure that can protect your family's wealth, not just for them, but for their kids and their kids' kids. Okay, let's get real for a second. And I want you to be honest with yourself here. If something happened to you tonight, would your family have a financial map? Would they know exactly what you own, where to find it all, and how to actually manage it? Or would they be left with this giant, messy puzzle and a mountain of stress on top of everything else? For a lot of really successful people, the reality looks something like this slide. We call it the chaos scenario, and it's so common. You've worked your tail off to build up these assets, right? You've got rental properties in their own LLCs, maybe a family business in another entity, brokerage accounts in your personal name, life insurance, retirement accounts. It's all over the place. And look, each one of those is a win. But when you put it all together without a single clear plan, that legacy you're so proud of can turn into a huge burden for the very people you're trying to protect. So the big question is, how do we fix this mess? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover. We'll look at the solution the wealthy have been using for generations, the holding company. We're going to break down how to pick the right one. I'll even share a pretty cool secret about estate taxes, and we'll see a side-by-side comparison of what happens with a plan versus without one. So let's dive in. So the problem with this scattered success really boils down to this. Usually, there's one person in the family who's the hub, right? They're the one running the investments, managing the business. They know where everything is. The problem is, when that person is suddenly gone, everyone else is left scrambling, just trying to make sense of it all. And that, my friends, leads to a ton of stress, sky-high legal fees, and sometimes even years spent just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle back together. Okay, so how do we avoid that nightmare scenario? This is where we get to the good stuff. The solution that really sophisticated families use. It's called a family holding company, and it is an incredibly powerful tool that consolidates everything and creates a super clear, simple roadmap for your family to follow when you're not there to guide them. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Family holding company sounds complicated, a little intimidating maybe, but don't let the name fool you. In simple terms, it's just a legal entity, like an LLC or a limited partnership. But here's the key. Its job isn't to run a business. It doesn't deal with tenants or customers. Its only job is to own the other companies that do. The easiest way to think about it? It's the parent company for all your other assets. So let's look at what this actually looks like. You've got the holding company at the very top, acting like a central command center. It's not the one calling the plumber or managing employees. Instead, it just owns the other LLCs that do. So it owns the LLC for your rental, the LLC for your business, the LLC for your brokerage account. This separation is absolutely key. The children companies handle all the day-to-day stuff, while the parent holding company gives you that one single point of ownership and control. Everything flows up to it. So why go through the trouble of setting this all up? Well, the benefits are frankly game-changing. First off, you get to consolidate everything. No more scattered mess. You have one simple, clean financial picture. Second, you build a fortress of asset protection around your wealth. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Third, succession becomes totally seamless. No more guessing games for your family. And number four, and this one is huge, you can actually protect the inheritance from your kids' future problems. I'm talking creditors, lawsuits, even a messy divorce. It's incredibly powerful. All right, so maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm in. This sounds like a great idea. The next step is absolutely critical, though. You have to choose the right legal entity for your holding company. And trust me, this is not a small detail. If you pick the wrong one, you could be looking at some serious and very expensive tax problems later on. So, the first rule here is knowing what to avoid. And for a family holding company, you almost never want to use a corporation. Doesn't matter if it's an S Corp or a C Corp. Why? It's all about taxes. With a corporation, just moving assets around, like, say, taking a property out to sell it or refinance, can be considered a taxable event. Bam, you just got a surprise tax bill. What you want is flexibility, not a bunch of hidden tax traps. So that means the choice really boils down to two options, an LLC or a limited partnership. And why these two? Well, look at the two most important features. First step is tax flexibility. These are what we call flow-through entities. All that means is that profits and losses pass directly to you, the owner. The company itself doesn't pay a separate tax. This gives you that freedom to move assets in and out without those nasty tax surprises. Then there's asset protection. And in this department, they aren't just good, they're excellent. All because of a powerful legal tool called a charging order. So what in the world is charging order protection? Think of it as your legal fortress. Let's say you get sued personally for something completely unrelated, like a car accident. A creditor can't just come in and seize your LLC or the valuable assets inside it. No way. All they can get is something called a charging order. And what that means is they only get paid if and when you decide to pay yourself a distribution from the company. Now, let's be real. You're not going to decide to pay the person suing you, right? This gives you an insane amount of bargaining power to make that lawsuit go away for pennies on the dollar. Okay, let's kick it up a notch and talk about an even more advanced strategy. This one is specifically for limited partnerships. Now, if you have an estate that's large enough to potentially get hit with estate taxes, this is something you absolutely need to know about. It's a tool the wealthy have used for years to legally slash their tax bill, and it can save your heirs a literal fortune. So the whole secret sauce is in the unique way a limited partnership, or LP, is structured. See, in an LP, you have two kinds of partners. You have the limited partners, let's say that's you and your spouse, who own almost all of the partnership. But, and this is the important part, you have zero control, none. All the control is held by a separate general partner. This split between ownership and control, that is the key to the whole thing. All right, let me show you how this works with a quick example. Imagine your family's entire portfolio, all your rentals, your investments, everything, is sitting inside this limited partnership. And let's say the total fair market value is a nice round $2 million. Now you think, for estate tax purposes, the value is $2 million, right? Simple enough. But here's where the magic happens. Because the ownership that you pass on to your kids comes with no control, they can't just decide to sell a property or force a payout. The IRS actually agrees that it's worth less than its sticker price. So a professional appraiser can come in and apply what's called a lack of control discount, and that discount can often be around 20%. So what does that mean? It means that your $2 million portfolio is now valued at only $1.6 million when it comes to calculating estate taxes. You just legally made $400,000 of value vanish as far as the IRS is concerned. That is a huge, huge advantage. Okay, to really hammer this home, let's tell a quick story. This will show you the real-world difference between having a plan and not. So let's meet John, who left behind a legacy of chaos, and Lisa, who left a legacy of clarity. So here's John's story. By all accounts, he was a successful guy. He had properties in a couple of different states, a business, a brokerage account, the works. But everything was owned separately, all scattered about. So when he passed away, his family was just left in the lurch. They were scrambling to find everything he owned, hiring lawyers, dealing with courts in multiple states. It was an absolute nightmare. Just a stressful, expensive, chaotic mess. Now, let's look at Lisa. She had a pretty similar portfolio of assets, but the big difference? Everything she owned was neatly tucked inside one single holding company. So when she passed away, her trust laid it all out. Her two kids would just step in as the new managers. That's it. The transfer of control was seamless, the plan was crystal clear, and the best part? The entire inheritance was automatically protected from any future lawsuits or divorces her kids might run into down the road. You know, this quote really says it all perfectly. In John's case, you're passing along chaos. In Lisa's case, you're passing along a present with a bow on it. So the question is, what are you building? Are you leaving your family a complicated mess they have to untangle? Or are you handing them a gift, something organized, protected, and easy to manage? Ultimately, that's the choice. All right, let's bring it all home and wrap this up with the key takeaways. Because this isn't just some abstract theory, right? This is about building a real, practical roadmap for your wealth and, more importantly, for your family's future. So here it is, your 4-step blueprint. Step 1, get your assets consolidated under one single holding company. Step 2, protect that company with a rock-solid operating agreement. This is the rulebook that spells out things like who takes over and how it's managed. Step 3, you have to treat the entity correctly. This is so important. It's not a personal piggy bank. You have to keep the finances separate to maintain that legal protection. And finally, step 4, let it grow with you. This isn't a set it and forget it thing. It's a living structure that's designed to adapt as your portfolio grows and changes. So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. I want you to really take a hard look at how your own assets are structured right now. Is your financial blueprint built to last for generations, to provide that clarity and protection? Or is it really just built for today? The choice, as they say, is yours. Thanks for watching.